Welcome back, Trivia Junkies. So it seems my minion dropped the ball on our first video in this genre, which was also our first video created. In this one, we're hoping to redeem ourselves with double-checked questions and answers. That said, hopefully your highly combustible brain buckets don't ignite while you try to keep up during this 3-level barrage of glam rock madness. Here we go, posers! Level 1. Not as easy as some trivia channels, but most of you rockers should get these. Formed in Philadelphia in 1983, which band released Night Songs in 1986? Cinderella. Just Got Lucky was the second single from which Dokken album? Tooth and Nail, 1984. Which band's debut album was titled On Through the Night? Def Leppard. Bathroom Wall was a 1987 single by who? Faster Pussycat. Which Motley Crue album was recorded in Vancouver, Canada, with producer Bob Rock? (1989's Dr. Feelgood). Jim Gillette was the vocalist for which band formed in 1988? Nitro. Which band had a hit with Turn Up the Radio in 1984? Autograph. In what year was Twisted Sister's We're Not Gonna Take It released as a single? (1984). Feel It Again was a 1986 hit for which Canadian band? Honeymoon Suite. What band, formed in 1976, released the single Cold Blood in 1988? Kicks. Up All Night was a 1990 hit by which band? Slaughter. What's the title of Warrant's debut album from 1989? Dirty Rotten Filthy Stinking Rich. Headed for a Heartbreak was a 1989 hit for which band? Winger. Jack Russell was singer and founding member of which band? Great White. Hold On to 18 was a charting single for who? Black and Blue. Dokken guitarist George Lynch went on to form which band in 1989? Lynch Mob. Michael and Robert Sweet formed Rock's Regime in 1983, but soon changed the band name to what? Striper. Reach for the Sky was a 1988 album by which band? Rat. Who had a hit with For the Love of Money in 1989? Bullet Boys. Which GIT graduate and guitar teacher formed Racer X in 1985? Paul Gilbert. Wait, released in 1987, was a hit for which band? White Lion. Which English band had a hit with Say What You Will in 1983? Fastway. In and Out of Love was a single from which Bon Jovi album? "7800 Degrees Fahrenheit." Psycho Cafe is an album by who? Bang Tango. Blackie Lawless fronted which band? Wasp. Level 2. Were you really paying attention to the bands that came and went through the 80s and the revolving door of musicians hopping between bands? Funko Metal Carpet Ride was the first studio album for which band? Electric Boys. Keep Your Eye on the Money was a track from which Motley Crue album? Theatre of Pain, 1985. Which Angel keyboardist formed House of Lords in 1987? Greg Giuffria. Poison's single Fallen Angel was off of which album? Open Up and Say, Ah! 1988. Canadian singer Daniel McMaster was known for fronting which band? Bonham. Atomic Playboys is a 1989 studio album by which guitarist band of the same name? Steve Stevens. Vixen came into the spotlight in the 80s but was formed in 1973 by which guitarist? Jan Kunemund. Which band's second album, Shot in the Dark, was released in 1986? Great White. Guitarist Warren DeMartini replaced which other respected guitarist in Rat, who left to join Ozzy in 1982? Jake E. Lee. Kiss appeared without makeup for the first time to promote which album? Lick It Up. Which band formed in Richmond, Virginia in 1984 but didn't release an album, self-titled, until 1990? Firehouse. London was a band formed in 1978 by which member of Motley Crue? Nikki Sixx. What year did Extreme release their first and self-titled album? 1989. Randy Rhoads co-founded which band in 1973? Quiet Riot. Guitarist Jake E. Lee and vocalist Paul Shortino were original members of which band? Rough Cut. Which band had a Hot 100 hit in 1989 with Walking Shoes? Tora Tora. Give It To Me Good was a hit for which band in 1990? Trickster. Which band released a cover of Because the Night in 1986? Keel. Who released the album Four Winds in 1989? Tangier. Formed in Hollywood in 1987, which band released the album Leather Boys with Electric Toys? Pretty Boy Floyd. Name the two original guitarists for Faster Pussycat. Greg Steele and Brent Muscat. Nothing But Trouble was the second album by which trio? Blue Murder. Robert Allen Deal is the real name of which guitarist? Mick Mars. Which Canadian band released Young, Wild and Free in 1986? Brighton Rock. Lenny Wolf was the original frontman for which German band? Kingdom Come. Level 3. Only the hardcore fans with LP collections as large as the Space Shuttle will get through this level. Which band released the single Hammer Swings Down in 1989? Babylon AD. What is CC DeVille's real name? Bruce Anthony Johannesson. Which band released the song Standing in the Shadows in 1989? Brittany Fox. Who was Matt Sorum playing with before replacing Steven Adler in Guns N' Roses? The Cult. Which band's first album was 1985's Take What You Want? Hurricane. Originally from Lyon, France, which band released the songs Inside Out and What Keeps Me Loving You? XYZ. Which band released the album Thunder in the East in 1984? Loudness. Before his band Winger, Kip Winger played bass with what other iconic rocker? Alice Cooper. Which guitarist replaced Vinnie Vincent in Kiss in 1984? Mark St. John. Late to the game, Steelheart's self-titled album dropped in what year? (1990). Which legendary producer produced Slippery When Wet? Bruce Fairbairn. Love Has Taken Its Toll was a 1989 single for which band? Soraya. Which UK band released the album The State We're In 1984? The Dogs d'Amour. Shotgun Messiah is a glam metal band from which country? Sweden. What band was Phil Collen in before he joined Def Leppard? Girl. Which band's first single, Fingers on It, was featured in the movie Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer? Enough's Enough. Guitarist Michael Kelly Smith and drummer Tony Destra left which band in 1985 to form Britny Fox? Cinderella. Which Swiss band had a hit in 1984 with their cover of the Sweets' Ballroom Blitz? Crocus. Blackout in the Red Room was the debut album for which band? Love Hate. Bassist Dana Strum and singer Mark Slaughter were in which project before Slaughter? Vinnie Vincent Invasion. Which Norwegian band had a hit in 1987 with 10,000 Lovers in One? TNT. Which band's first studio album was titled Trouble, released in 1978? Whitesnake. In 1986, Lane Staley of grunge fame formed a glam rock band named what? Alice in Chains. Guns N' Roses former bassist Duff McKagan calls which city his hometown? Seattle, Washington. Brian Vollmer is the vocalist for what band that had a hit with Rock You? Helix. Well, that was loud, flashy, and slightly embarrassing, just like the 80s glam scene itself. Did you nail the quiz, or did you bomb harder than a hair metal ballad after grunge hit the charts? Either way, I'm impressed you made it through without passing out from Aquanet fumes. Now click subscribe before your eyeliner smudges and your leopard print leggings lose circulation. More trivia awaits, and trust me, it's less forgiving than a guitar solo in 5-inch heels. Melvin, out. Before you scuttle off to your earthly distractions, may I suggest indulging in one more of my mind-melting masterpieces? You're welcome.